In this video, I'm going to talk about 10 hard GRE vocabulary words. Words that are likely to show up on the test, especially on that hard section. So let's dive in together. I'm Chris of Target Test Prep. If you're trying to memorize GRE vocabulary, taking on the likes of lugubrious and perfunctory, you can't be faulted for thinking, luguba what? As well as whether these words are actually going to ever show up on the test. Well, the answer is quite possibly. Now, you might also be wondering, does it make sense to try to remember millions or tens of thousands of these really difficult words and hoping they might just come up on the test? Well, the good news is that GRE has these pet vocabulary words, and they tend to be really hard and scary looking, but they recycle them. They use them over and over again on these sections. So learn this finite number of words and you'll set yourself up for success. The first word is the word myopic. It comes from the word myopia, which is being short-sighted, but we don't really care, at least the GRE doesn't care about one's ability to see far. They're taking the definition of myopia, meaning short-sightedness in terms of planning or thinking ahead in future steps. And that's the second definition, but the primary definition we want to go for on the GRE. So don't be myopic, make sure you learn that word. The next word is a hard word. Why? Well, it's recondite. And if you look at it, you try to take it apart, recondite, recondition. The thing is, the definition of the word doesn't actually sound what the word means. Recondite is something that is difficult to understand in terms of a subject matter. It's just not that well known. I've never heard about truffle hunting in the 15th century. That's really random. That would be an example of a recondite topic. And a bonus word, it's a synonym for abstruse. Now, if you know that word, that's great. If not, that's also great because now you have 2 for 1. The next word is diffident. Now, diffident sounds kind of like different, but it doesn't mean anything like that. To be diffident is to be shy, to be timid, to lack confidence in speaking up. And it has that connection again as a GRE word where it doesn't look like what it means. You will also see this kind of word, diffident, which describes a characteristic trait, in those text completions or in those sentence equivalence questions. So watch out for diffident. The next word is sanguine. Now, if you know some roots, you might remember that sanguine comes from the root for bloody. A sanguinary is a carnage or a bloodbath. But this word doesn't really relate to that meaning. Sanguine actually means cheerful and optimistic. And the connection there is back in, medieval times, 14th, 15th century, when someone was cheerful and happy, they became red in the face, ruddy, and therein lies the connection, I suppose. But it doesn't really help us. So better just to think of sanguine means optimistic, and that will help you hopefully remember that word. I think this is a great word where you can come up with an example sentence like, oh, I'm sanguine. I will remember the word sanguine, and hopefully that will help you get that word into long-term memory. Next, panacea. Finally, roots can kind of help us. Pan is a root which means all. Acea, not so common of a root, but goes back to root meaning to cure, not common again in other words. So a cure-all. What does that mean? Some super medicine? Well, sure, a panacea is something that could make you completely healthy, but the figurative definition of the GRE common definition is anything that cures society's ills or remedies a situation. So oftentimes you hear it in the GRE context, like there was a solution that hoped to be a panacea, but it ended up only making things worse. So again, panacea, cure-all. Next up is the word arcane. Think of arcane as secret knowledge or something that only a few people know about and they keep it secret. So an arcane ritual or some arcane handshake that you come up with between your best friends so that you know that you're all part of the same circle. That's arcane. The next word is censure, and it means to find fault with somebody and express disapproval, usually in a formal statement or formal speech or expression. So it has more of like a formal condemnation sense to it than a word that would be, for instance, reproach or to scold, which is less formal. Again, censure strikes me at least as one of those words that doesn't quite sound like what it means, but again, it's a very negative word. You don't want to be censured. Enigmatic is a pretty cool word. It relates to the word enigma, which is a mystery, something that's unknown that you can't quite unlock. So anything that's enigmatic is mysterious. It could be a puzzle or some code that you're trying to crack, or it could even be somebody's smile or expression. What is she thinking? I don't know. It's an enigmatic look. Next up, we have iconoclast. Now, this word has an interesting background or etymology, and that is that it means to break or shatter mirrors or icons or glass things. And it comes from a religious context where anyone who cracked or broke idols would be seen as going against a tradition, going against a church. More broadly, now, what this word means is anyone who challenges or defies convention, usually in a very bold fashion. I oftentimes think of that artist Jackson Pollock. If you're not familiar with him, what he did is he basically took a wall like this and he threw paint at it. And that was something that was very iconoclastic in the world of art because traditionally people used a simple paintbrush to paint things. They didn't just throw paint at the wall, but out of that, he was able to make art. And finally, our 10th word is the word sedulous. Sedulous means hardworking. You really go through something in detail and you're very exact about it. So, for instance, if you're doing your taxes or having someone do your taxes for you, you hope that person would be sedulous. Now, this is a word that a lot of people think relates to sedentary. You're sitting somewhere, and it doesn't at all. However, typically when you're doing a task sedulously, such as your taxes, you are sitting down. So that's a good way to connect that word to a word it doesn't mean, but to its actual definition. So again, sedulous means hardworking, not sitting, but oftentimes you are sitting while you're sedulous. And that wraps up our top 10 words. And I realize I started off this video with the word lugubrious, and I want to make sure I don't leave without giving you the definition of that word. It is also a hard GRE word that has shown up on the test before. Not quite as common as these other words, but always fun to say. And it means someone who's excessively mournful or sad or just overdoing it with their sadness. And with that, I'll see you next time.